right, we are back at it for another Sunday Q&A. It's been really smoky around here lately. I mean actual smoke from actual wildfires, mostly west of here. But for like the last couple weeks, it's been just super smoky around and the air is actually deemed unhealthy and all that. All right, so first question I really like, I got it from the Fury production and it is about the worst injury I've ever had. And I grew up on skateboards and snowboards. I started skateboarding when I was about 12, and I started snowboarding a year or two after that. I wasn't big into traditional sports, at least playing them, and I wasn't into like other extracurricular activities. After school, I skateboarded, and in the winter, I snowboarded, and that was it. Now, you would think that doing all the skateboarding and snowboarding, I'd get injured a lot. On snow, I've been able to avoid serious injury altogether. Skateboarding, however, is much more of a young man's sport. Fittingly, I had a good injury right when I kind of entered adulthood, right around the age of 20. It was summer before my sophomore year of college. I was just pushing around the hometown skate park as usual. Popped a little flip trick and caught it and put it down, and when I put it down, my foot was kind of half on the nose of the board and half off, and my ankle rolled off of it. And I didn't break anything, but I had like the worst sprain I've dealt with ever, and I've sprained and rolled a lot of ankles in my time. It stayed purple for weeks. It was purple like halfway up my calf and purple in between the toes. There's a picture on the screen, you'll see it. The entire like ankle joint there was just disgusting. So I let that slide for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I went back to college in Oregon, and I slept on the top bunk when I moved into my dorm, and every day I had to jump down from it, and that was still painful weeks after. So I finally went to the doctor one day, and they x-rayed it, they checked it out, and he said, yeah, it's just a terrible sprain. The ligaments are all stretched and scarred, and they're pretty bad, but they're not bad enough for surgery, so make it worse or just deal with it. And so that was really left at that. I just kind of had to self-rehab through it and eventually healed up. But to this day, I still pop that ankle kind of every morning. It still cracks, but I think it's all good, and all things considered, I think if that's my worst injury, I'm pretty fortunate. So fingers crossed that that'll be my worst injury for some time. I got a question from the Hump and Dump, who asks, are athletes paid too much in the United States, or maybe not even in the United States, worldwide? And he does say that he knows they technically are paid the right amount, but if I view their high salaries as a major flaw of our society. And this is actually a trigger of mine, shout out to the LCP crew, when people say like, oh, athletes make way too much money, I can't believe that. Okay, but our economy does not work on a completely arbitrary judgment call by the individual of who gets to make what amount of money. No, in fact, we have decided that we operate mostly in a free economy under the structure of supply and demand, such that my opinion and your opinion about what people earn is irrelevant because we have let the system decide that. Okay, so in the context of athletes, let's take a look at the supply. Unlike other jobs, even professional jobs like doctors or lawyers or something like that, the skill required to be a professional athlete is very, very rare. Lawyers and doctors, yeah, those are jobs that take skill as well, but think about how common and or rare the skill is. If you decide you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, you go to school, you do all the training, you get all the certificates, all the licenses, all the stuff you need. If you stay committed, you work hard, you're probably going to succeed in that area. You will become a lawyer and a doctor because that's very common. A professional athlete, on the other hand, man, you can work as hard as you want. You could train 18 hours a day if you want. You could stay on the strictest diet ever if you want. You could work at your craft every hour that you are awake of every day. And the odds of you succeeding as a professional athlete are still extremely slim. So that's the supply. It's in very short supply, the skill we're talking about with professional athletes. Now let's take a look at the demand. You know, we can decide whether we like it or not, but the reality is that people are filling up stadiums for all kinds of sports across the world every single day and every single night. We fork over cash for tickets, we fork over cash for jerseys, we fork over cash to watch the games on TV. Advertisers pay tons of money to advertise on those games. We're talking about major, major entertainment here. We're talking about extreme demand for the people to fill the role of the entertainer within the games. Whether we like it or not, when we're talking about professional athletes, we're talking about very limited supply and gigantic demand. And when that happens, the rare people that can satisfy that demand are going to earn tons of money, and I would say rightfully so. Now you ask if I think that's a major flaw in our society. I guess maybe we should be paying soldiers or teachers or whoever, maybe they're worth more than athletes. The only thing I know is I would accept that flaw more than I would accept the flaw of a society where you get to be king or I get to be king, and what everyone earns is just decided on some arbitrary judgment call by a person who's like, well, I'm king and your job's cool and yours sucks, so you get money and you don't. No, that's not the system under which we operate, and I am glad that it's not. Pandalarium asks, whatever happened to Bash? You mean this dog? What did you think, he died or something? I guess I just don't share him as frequently. But yeah, that's my French Bulldog. His name is Bash. No, he's not dying. That is just the way that he breathes, and the vet says he has excellent breathing, in fact, so deal with it. He also asks if I have any guilty pleasures. I have a weird thing with wholesome 90s TV, specifically Full House. I don't know if I enjoy it ironically or if I enjoy it seriously, but that's the reason. I don't know if you can see, I am wearing a Jesse and the Rippers t-shirt right now. So my fanship is legit, and I'm actually really stoked for the Full House reboot that's coming to Netflix, I think in 2016 here. Mark your calendars. Jamal Muner, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, asks me what I think about the increasingly politically correct society that we seem to have, and everybody claiming that they're offended by this and that, and what I think the consequences might be. I've talked about this topic, I think, quite a bit, especially on Lag Count Podcast. We talk about this a lot. Being offended is not a rational thought. It's not reason. It's not an argument. When you say you're offended, or some paraphrasing of that, all you're really doing is advocating censorship. When you're trying to counter a point that you disagree with by saying you're offended, you're not actually countering anything at all. You're just saying that point of view shouldn't have a right to exist. And that's as wrong in a civilized society as it is intellectually dishonest and lazy. But it's easy to take the point of view that I'm advocating when you're on this side of the fence, when you're not the one being offended, when you're not the one being joked about, when you're not the one being targeted. And we have to remember it goes both ways. And I think the gaming community is in major need of a reminder on this topic, because we are seeing a development right now that exposes just how hypocritical we are. In the gaming community, we like to mock the Sarkeesians of the world and the gaming journalists and all these people that say they're offended by how we as a community act. And we like to give them those classic lines of stop being butthurt, it's just a joke, lighten up. And by and large, that's correct. But this last week, Jimmy Kimmel made a video on his late night show which made fun of gamers in the gaming community, specifically about YouTube gaming and how ridiculous it is that we all watch each other play games. And he made this video about how they have services where gamers can watch gamers watching gamers play games. Kind of clever, stupid, whatever, a dumb joke. Calling us all nerds for wanting to watch each other play games, essentially. And as of this recording, that video has 32,000 dislikes against 3,000 likes, and the comments section is just an absolute cesspool of butthurt gaming nerds. The classic comments like, "This is why you don't f*** with the gaming community. The gaming community is gonna f*** you up. Get cancer, you f***ing loser." You got gamers coming out by the thousands, and they're all just posting comments that are the intellectual equivalent of, "I'm offended by this video and it therefore shouldn't exist." Some going as far as to say, "You, Jimmy Kimmel, shouldn't exist. Your show shouldn't exist because it makes light of my life or my culture." Okay, no, gaming community, you don't get to ridicule on feminists and gaming journalists and all these people who probably deserve ridicule. I'm with you there. But when you're the subject of ridicule, it's on you to rebut that ridicule with reason and with logical argument, not with emotional death threats, not with cancer wishes, none of that bullshit. Because if you do that, you are just a complete hypocrite. You are saying you should be able to operate by different rules than everybody else. And I'm not naming names, but there are tons of big name gaming YouTubers who are all over this right now, who have sent their armies to Jimmy Kimmel's video to go post how they're offended and how this shouldn't exist. Defend the honor of gamers. I'm not naming names, but I will call you out anonymously. All you are saying when you do that is you should be able to operate by different rules than everybody else. All you are saying is that you want a society in which you are king, where your word and your culture and your way of life is holy and immune to criticism, yet you get to go around criticizing other people's ways of life and, you know, making jokes and ridiculing and all that. Fuck that. You're not king. Lighten up. Everyone needs to learn how to take a joke, and if you don't like it, the burden's on you to explain why the reasoning behind it is poor, not to say it shouldn't exist because it's insensitive to your way of life. You're not king. That's the theme of today's video. You're not king. I'm not king. You're not king. We decided against that way of life a long time ago. Anyway, thanks as always for listening. I hope you're enjoying this new series. Remember, I'm always in need of good questions to answer to keep this series healthy. If you have questions you'd like me to address, go ahead and ask me down below in the comments or on Twitter @skag_3. I can't get to all of them on video, but I get to all of them in text. So thanks for keeping the conversation going. Appreciate it. And a big fuck off shout out to the person tailgating me this whole time. Break check.